Hello, James here. First episode of Wednesday Walks. And we're starting off with me lying, really. Unfortunately, I'm not walking, as you can tell. And realistically, it's not actually Wednesday. It's actually Sunday evening. But the reason for that is because I wanted to go out on Wednesday. And it's been raining for about 6,000 weeks straight in the UK. I don't really want to get wet. I don't want to damage my camera equipment. So, yeah, we're here. Anyway. If you are a new business owner, new to a management role, or new to sales and marketing, or starting a new venture, then please do watch these videos because this is what they're targeted at to start with, and then we'll get more granular, more technical into other topics. If you are looking to get involved, I will be recording the future episodes at Cannock Chase between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. And yeah, message me on LinkedIn if you want to get involved. It's part of my networking event as well, so it'll be an informal discussion while I record and do other bits and bobs. If you've got any questions, comments, topics, that sort of thing, leave them in the comments below and I'll pick them up and respond to them for you. Again, connect me on LinkedIn, visit my company website. If you need any marketing or web help, then please do give me a shout. So let's crack on with the general term. What is a customer profile? So a customer profile, the way I like to look at it, is more like a wanted poster. So you identify to other people and outside, internally, within your business, the look, feel, ethos, static data, dynamic data, that sort of thing about your customers and what their needs are. So you can really understand how to adapt your business to meet the needs and wants of these customers. So this will be things like, for example, let's say you are an electrician. These will be things like understanding what your customers are likely to be. So you can profile it into two categories initially. So let's say domestic and commercial. Let's go down the domestic route. Okay, so you prefer doing the domestic route personally. So let's think about some customers that potentially need an electrician on a regular basis. Let's say older people that don't have the confidence to use tools anymore. Families who want their house to be safe. So you want to identify their age, genders, incomes. Obviously, you want to market yourself to a different income range depending on what customer you're trying to attract. So you don't want to be a one shoe fits all for someone who's earning £1 million a year because they want a specialist service that's high end, more than likely at least, high end and a bit bougie, let's just say. So the goal is to make a one page. The way I do it is look for a one page, like a cover letter for a CV, of understanding what the customer is, why you are potentially good and better for that customer from your services and experiences, and then basically break it down with stats, figures, and descriptive paragraphs as well. So we'll move into why it's important, but this is just generally what a customer profile is. It's a short, sharp description of customers, their data, and really what their needs and wants are, and where you can kind of really attract the right audience for your marketing. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of everything. So why do managers and new business owners like yourself or small business owners like me need a customer profile or a database of different customer profiles that you want to attract? Well, it just helps you to refine and kind of produce concise marketing offers, campaigns, advertising, deals and discounts. There's no point discounting something that your customer base don't really need, or vice versa. If they don't really need it, again, why are you offering it? It allows your services to be a lot more niche, a lot more refined to people that are looking for what you can offer. So customer profiles don't necessarily have to be done now. There's more of a dynamic system for your business. So over time, you learn more and more using data from your, let's say, your web traffic, your CRM systems, your communications with people when doing outreach campaigns, cold calling, magazine advertising. Let's say check a trade. Let's say use the electrician as an example, using directories for tradespeople. You'll get inquiries in and you'll learn who is being attracted to your current marketing, and basically who wants to use your services or who's interested in your services. So what you want to learn is where they are, what their interests are, what they care about, what their values are, other things like static metrics like genders, age ranges, that sort of thing. Interests, depending on what industry you're in. So hobbies and pastimes, If you're doing a B2B service, not necessarily that important, but if you are, let's say, in retail or you offer hospitality, it's extremely important to understand what people's hobbies are. Because if you're playing sport in a pub, for example, and no one in the pub enjoys sports, but they're into board games, then obviously you need to pivot your business, or vice versa, just change the marketing. But it's important to understand and know who's currently part of your business or your business network, family, community, and who's not, but are you marketing to them, and whether you need to pivot. So it's important as well, on more of a long-term sense, to have a real idea of customers and customer sales in terms of profiling, because it will allow you to convert from inquiries and leads, or even you cold calling, into a full-blown sale, and also on a customer service basis, regular current business, and also retention. That will reduce your costs in terms of long-term business with customers. Good marketing makes for good business and good customers. So the last thing I just wanted to talk about as well is building a system. This is more technical, and this is more potentially where my business could help as well, because we're a data focused marketing agency, is building different data streams to help you understand your customers and build these profiles a bit more specifically and a bit more accurately, rather than just going off sort of guesswork, emotion, experience. Sometimes people's experiences can be wrong. Sometimes they can be right and very, very useful, but it's understanding the data that comes into your business. So it'll be things like tracking web traffic, tracking contact points for marketing, so email marketing, social media, print advertising, pay-per-click advertising, that sort of thing, and understanding what's hitting, what's missing, and that sort of kind of remit. If you want to meet me for the next meetup for Wednesday walks, please do connect me on LinkedIn. The link is below in the descriptions. Yeah, it's my personal LinkedIn profile, so I will respond to all messages that come through. We will be meeting between 10 and 2 at Cannock Chase, which is in Staffordshire. So if you're in the West Midlands area and Staffordshire, then please do get involved. If you're willing to travel, then that's even better, because I get to meet more and more of you guys that are watching this video. But anyway, back to the video. So I'm going to go big picture, then small picture. We're going to talk about what metrics are important for understanding how to make a really comprehensive customer profile. The first couple of things are going to be a bit surface level, but we'll go through the basic identifiers of basically who they are. Like, who are these people that you want to attract to your business? So we can go very, very top level for now. Customer types: are they individuals? Are they businesses? Are they households or families or communities or groups as a whole? So they're like 3 different types of people you're likely to be marketing to. There will be a couple of niches and outliers, but generally it comes to individuals, households and communities or groups, and businesses, and the odd person that doesn't fit to any of those, which is very, very, very rare. Then you've got to go understand their age ranges. There's no point necessarily advertising a pension or a retirement plan to an 18-year-old, because realistically they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about going to Ibiza in the summer with the lads. So it's pointless spending money on certain age ranges. But again, certain products are relevant to certain age ranges. Sometimes products, generally, let's say milk, is a product that every age range pretty much uses. So they don't really want to niche down particularly in that sort of metric. Then we'd look at things like serviceable areas and locations. So if you are running a bar or pub, let's say in hospitality, you can't necessarily move your location. So the people you're marketing to need to be within a commutable distance. If you're offering a business service that cannot be moved, then obviously you are offering a service that's within a commutable distance. So you need the customer to be where you are, and vice versa. And this comes to things like, hospitality is probably the best understanding of this. Is you can't move a pub to 10, 15, 20, 100 miles down the road, even if that's technically where your best customers are. Then you go to like situational marketing. So it'll be things like, are they homeowners? Are they in a relationship? Do they have kids? Kind of the key things that come to my head just thinking off the spot. And then you got to, does your product niche down to any of those particular things? Then you've obviously got to go find those people, and they are very important metrics to put on the profile, and have an understanding with all the marketing campaigns you do that you hit that sort of criteria, because that is quite key. Singles holidays aren't going to be really necessarily important to marriage people, for example. I say that is just because I've recently looked at holidays, and I keep now getting asked for singles holidays because Instagram knows that I'm not married, or Facebook knows that I'm not married. Yeah, so more in depth on the situation and needs. So you need to try and, whether that's through things like Google's advertising platform or Facebook's advertising platform, where you can just find these metrics, you kind of need to understand people's situations. So you need to kind of understand what your customer profile says about the customer. So are you trying to solve a problem that they have? Why is it now important that that problem gets solved? And how do you do that using your services? And what success looks like for you? So how do you solve their problem successfully? It's not necessarily an identifier, but it's important to understand how you solve the needs of your customer. So as we come to the end of the video, I just want to get into the sort of the grass and the weeds of everything and give you guys a nice understanding of how to get started with your customer profile and a step-by-step guide of understanding your ideal customers. So I would suggest that you don't create just one. I would suggest you create 5 to 10 different customer profiles of people you want to target, and then you can score them how you like, whether they meet different metrics or whether they meet the services that you actually already offer and products that will make it life easier and more profitable for you in terms of adapting to these customer profiles. But that comes down to your experience and your decision making. So what we're going to talk about and how we get started is, the first step is really niching down on one perfect, like absolute pinpoint perfect customer. And I'm going to use an example of, let's say, a pub. In Britain, we love a pub. There's bars, pubs, restaurants, activities places, loads of different places that all fit kind of within the same remit of evening entertainment, let's say, that offer drinks and food. So niche down to what's easiest for your business. So let's say we are traditionally a local pub where local people go for a drink, and we do a pub quiz once a week. I've just taken over. I want to understand what my customers are, where to find new customers, where to grow the business, and how to adapt to be a bit more dynamic as a venue. We know that traditionally it's an older drinking hole for the local people, so we won't necessarily change our drinks from traditional, so we will potentially go for craft beers and ciders. We won't necessarily start offering cocktails and things like that because that may be too fancy for our current clientele. But over the course of the next 6 months to a year, we can be dynamic, we can be adaptive, and we can actually change what the business is, where the local clientele and the current clientele are actually very happy with still being there, but we attract maybe newer, more financially rich customers by adapting to maybe a more bar style pub, but without alienating the current clientele. And again, you will lose people over time, but that's fine. We're going to start with our absolute perfect customer, which will be, I'm not going to specify it down to a gender. So we could split 2 profiles there. So male and female, because they will have different needs, but I wouldn't want to exclude one or the other. And I don't think necessarily you would, in a way. Age range, 25 to 35, on the up with their career, still got a lot of life in them, still want to stay out. More likely than not, they won't have kids yet, and they won't have necessarily settled down with their partners in terms of looking at kids and even later in life pensions and things like that. So 25 to 30 year olds, we want to attract, I feel like I want my pub to be a bit more of a sports orientated bar. So we want to attract local sports people from local sports clubs around the area. That's one way we can market to them, by sponsoring the local sports teams. Potentially we can niche down, let's say males, just to make life easier, would like to play the rugby, the football and golf. So that is more of a niche. And then we could go for, we want them to be there during the late afternoon / evening for a longer period of time, so we will offer food. So then we've got to look at getting food as part of our marketing plan. This will then mean that realistically, when there's a sports match on, most men in the area between age 25 and 35 will come to us at around 2 o'clock for 2 o'clock kickoffs for football and rugby and golf. Normally they're in America, so they're a little bit later, but again, they'll stay for the evening. And then we could potentially stay open till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the evening at a weekend. We've now got a bit of our niche. We've got a bit of a pot, let's say. Now we need to refine it a bit more emotionally. So we don't necessarily want thugs. We don't want football hooligans, but we want people who enjoy the sport. So my head initially is thinking income. People with moderate to higher incomes are going to be wanting to come to the pub, so we're going to have to make it fancy. They're going to have to do potentially some refurbs to this local, slightly rundown pub. So now we've really not necessarily alienated our current clientele. We've made it more pleasant for them, if anything. So the locals can still enjoy a drink. They can still enjoy their traditional beers and sides and things like that. We haven't changed what they enjoy. We've now offered them pub food, which is a plus for anyone really. Generally keeps them at the location for longer. We can then say by adding the sport, again, it keeps them there for longer, but people can also intermingle and potentially have a chat and enjoy the atmosphere a bit more by talking about the sport that's on TV. We've then transformed it from an old drinking hole where you might get the old is a bit offensive, 55 plus year old that's been drinking there since they were a teenager, to something a bit more vibrant, a bit more upbeat, a little bit more active with the whole sports thing. You can then start introducing things like pub quizzes. People in their 25 to 30 range will probably more likely come out to a pub quiz than if there's nothing going on at the pub, because they can stay home and game or watch TV, for example. We could do something really niche, assuming they're football fans or sports fans. They might be quite active, so we could do a dance class or a salsa night or something like that, which actually worked really well in my hometown. And also, being 25 to 30 year olds, some of them will be single, and it'd be a great way for both genders to intermingle. Again, it's something to talk about, something to keep people active, keep a bit of a buzz about the place. Now, these are just ideas off the top of my head. I'm not a pub landlord. I don't know the industry. I don't know hospitality really at all. But it just proves that just by creating these profiles, you know who you're trying to attract, how you're going to do it, and where to try and find them. If you were that customer, would you come to my establishment or would you go to a different establishment? And why would you go to that establishment rather than myself? And is it something that I could potentially offer, etc., etc.? So you understand them, you learn the market a little bit quicker, potentially, and it will speed up this profile. And then basically come up with phrases, catchphrases, keywords that you want to use for these customers. That's how you get started. It's a growing process, but it's really important to have these 5 to 10 different types of customers. Get granular with it. Get really, really specific with it. It may seem offensive to exclude certain people, but it's really important for your business. It's not a political thing. It's not a socio-economical thing. It's understanding the market, understanding how to make your business not just survive, but thrive in the future. I hope you liked the video. Again, it's one of those ones that was supposed to be a informal walk through the park, a little bit more of a discussion-based thing, and I'll pick up on different topics you can reply with and give me feedback on as well. But yeah, for this video, if you could leave in the comments what your business is, what you feel your key customer profile is, so a brief description of who you really are targeting at the moment with your business and what your business does and that sort of thing. I'd love to hear from you. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and I shall hear from you hopefully in the future. And yeah, again, every Wednesday walks. See you then.